Hello and welcome to a Talmud Israeli production. Today we will review the highlights of this week's course of Daf Yomi study, Masechet Eruvin, pages 49 through 55. Memtet 49. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Hamakpid al eruvo, ein eruvo eruv. If a person is so particular that the food in which they give to the communal eruv chatzerot, the slice of bread that they give over to the communal pot, must be the slice of bread that they receive in return, if someone is that particular, then their eruv is invalid. Why does Shmuel rule this way? Well, Mashma, what is the name of this institution? The name of the institution is Eruv, and Eruv means a harmonious merger of domains. If this person is so particular that he must get back the slice of bread he deposited, well, that is far from a harmonious merger. However, Rabbi Chanina says, Eruv o Eruv. In the technical sense, the Eruv is in fact valid. Ella, however, Nikwa Me'anshe Vardina, this person who's so particular is given a bad reputation. We refer to this person as one of the Anshe Vardina, the men of Vardina, known for their stinginess. Nun, 50. What happens if there are two people who are on their way home on Friday afternoon late in the day, close to Shabbat, and they are more than 2,000 cubits away from their hometown, but less than 4,000 cubits away? In theory, it would be possible for them to establish an Eruv Techumin and be able to get back home. However, in this instance, they're using the notion of the landmark, that you point to something in the distance and say, that shall be my place of Sabbath residence, and that on the basis of that declaration, they can go 2,000 cubits beyond the landmark. In this instance, one person knows about a landmark and one person does not know. Echad makir ve'echad she'eno makir. So what does the person who doesn't know about a landmark do? He gives over his authority, his right to declare the place of his Sabbath residence to the person who does know about the landmark. Zeh she'eno makir moser shvitato l'makir. And the person who does know about the landmark makes a verbal declaration, Shvitati b'makom ploni, may my rest, and that of my fellow, be at such and such a tree, whether it's a fence or a tall tree. Some noticeable landmark shall be their official place of residence, from which they could go 2,000 cubits and enter into their hometown. Nun Aleph, 51. Hani alpaim hechi kativa. The Gemara wants to know, where is there a biblical source for the idea of 2,000 cubits being the Tuchum Shabbat? The Gemara then continues and says, the Tanya, we learned in a Braita, Al yetz ish b'mkomo elo alpaim ama. When the Torah says a person shall not leave their makom, it refers to 2,000 cubits. And on the basis of hermeneutical interpretation, we derive from a verse concerning the Levite cities, the 42 Levitical cities, that there is a verse regarding the Levite cities that says the outer areas of these cities beyond the wall extended 2,000 cubits in each direction. The first 1,000 was empty space, and the second 1,000 was a place of gardens and orchards. And so there is a reference to 2,000 alpayim ba'ama in the Torah, and it is connected back by hermeneutical means to Tuchum Shabbat. 52. Nun bet. The Mishnah teaches us, Mi shechshich chutz latchum. If a person finds themselves outside of their city's Sabbath boundary when Shabbat begins, afilu ama achat, even just by one small tiny little amma, lo yikanes, they're not allowed to enter, they can't cross the threshold. Rabbi Shimon Omer, afilu chamesh esrei amot yikanes. Rabbi Shimon says that even if you find yourself 15 cubits away from the border of your city's Techum, you are still allowed to enter. This is a very major leniency. Why? Because the surveyors were imprecise when they put out the signage concerning the city's Techum, precisely because people make mistakes. And so this was an intentional error in order to accommodate those who make an unwitting error. And therefore, if a person finds themselves 2,000 cubits away from the city, in fact, they're really not 2,000 cubits away. They're probably only 1,985 cubits away. And thus, if they're 15 cubits beyond the so-called Techum, they're actually already within the Techum and can cross the threshold. Nun Gimel. The story is told about Rabbi Yoshua that he was a great debater and was never bested in conversation by anybody except for 3 times. And one of those 3 times involved a small child, a small girl. One time I was going on the road, says Rabbi Yoshua, and the road went through a field. I continued going on that path. A certain young girl told me, Rabbi Losada Hizu, isn't this not a field? A private area where you should not be trespassing? No, it's a well-trodden field. I'm not trespassing, this is the road. Amrali, she said to me, listen, Thieves like you are the ones who trod on this path. Meaning it wasn't really a public thoroughfare. It actually was a totally private field, and nobody should have been walking on it. But earlier people who violated the rules, effectively were thieves, trespassed, and they made it possible for subsequent people to think that it was okay, including Rabbi Yoshua. So in fact, he did wrong. Nun Daled. There was a certain student of Rabbi Elazar's, that he would study Torah without a melody, without vocalizing the words, but rather in silent. He was mentally learning the Torah without verbally learning the Torah. And after 3 years of doing this, he forgot his Torah learning. To teach you that you must articulate verbally whatever it is that you're learning. Mental learning alone is insufficient. Nun Hey, 55. Rabbi Yochanan cites a verse in Torah, Lo b'shamayim, the Torah is not in heaven. Lo timtza b'gasei ruach, which he homiletically interprets to mean, you will not find great Torah scholarship among those who regard themselves as being up in the sky, up in the shamayim. In other words, the gasei ruach, the haughty ones, who have a high, a lofty notion of their self-worth. They think very highly of themselves, they're arrogant. You will not find great Torah learning among those people. V'lo me'ever le'yam, nor is Torah learning across the ocean. Lo timtza lo b'sacharim lo b'tagarim. You will not find great Torah scholarship among those who are traveling businessmen, or for that matter, peddlers. Why? Because they spend much of their time on the road, engaging in pursuit of a livelihood, and they are not spending their time with the study of Torah. Historically, this turns out to be very true. There was a notion of the port Jew, the mercantile class of Jew, in the late medieval and early modern times. And among the mercantile class of Jews, religious observance was oftentimes minimal, and Torah scholarship was essentially non-existent. Everyone have a good week. Chag Sameach to one and all.